Welcome everyone. My name is Zsolt Nagy, and I will walk you through a very interesting topic. Is web development the right career for you? Because you might need to decide what kind of career choices to make in your life. And you will soon figure out that web development is one of the most lucrative career options with relatively little effort that you can pursue. Let me introduce myself. My name is Zsolt Nagy. I've been helping thousands of software developers already from over 98 countries based on my latest count in my courses and also my books to advance and level up in their professional careers and also in tech skills. Because as you can see, I've written a couple of books in JavaScript. ES6 is also JavaScript. It's the 2015 version of a language that is running in every browser. So you have seen JavaScript most likely because it's also running in your own browser. And I have also authored a couple of other books on software development careers in general. And this is why I'm speaking about this topic, because I have had quite a few clients who made the next step in their career with coaching cooperation with me. By the way, this book, The Developer's Edge, is going to retire because a publisher has purchased it. So this is the last month when it's still available. So I have 12 years of experience already in software development, and I started as a front-end developer or web developer. So I know this area inside and out, and I also know what kind of progress you can make if you get started as a web developer, how you can transition, what kinds of career choices you can make afterwards. So let's see what you will take out of this course. So you will know how to get started as a web developer, what choices you have. We will also describe the typical challenges that web developers are going to face in their careers. So most of these challenges I went through myself in my own career, so I can relate to that really well. And this way you will also see whether these are the challenges that are right for you. Then we will address how to learn web development in the most effective way. And finally, a very interesting topic, so it's worth staying in the course to the end, because I will give you a path to get to the top 5% of all web developers around there. And you will see that it is not that hard, and you don't need any special skills for that or anything. It is reachable for almost anyone as long as you put in the hours. By the way, when it comes to putting in the hours, what I mean is that there is this 10,000 hour rule circulating in the literature that whenever someone puts in 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, it leads to mastery. Now, it doesn't mean that 10,000 hours of any random effort, but we're talking about deliberate practice, so deeply immersed work. And with that, you're already very near the top of the software developers. But you don't even need the 10,000 hours actually to become a very knowledgeable web developer who can create a lot of value to their employers. Or freelancers, in case of freelancers, their clients. So let's see the agenda. These are the 4 lessons. We will explore career options, then the challenges, then the learning, and finally I will show you how you can get the edge and how you can get to the top 5%. Straightforward. So let's see the career options. So right now in 2019, there are amazing job opportunities around the world, which not necessarily consist of 6-figure salaries in the United States, because the initial salaries are somewhat lower as a web developer without experience. At the same time, you can target even 6-figure salaries relatively fast, both as an employee and obviously as a freelancer. It's very easy actually to target that. And what are additional perks in general is that web development is something that you can do all around the world, so anywhere. And oftentimes the work itself is remote. which means that you can choose any place to live. So if you want to live next to the beach, and if you want to work from the beach, that's also possible in case you find the right employer or the right clients. Or if you want to go to Thailand, same thing. It is also a possibility. So that's one of the main advantages. The other one is that there is this special state called the flow state. So there is a famous psychologist called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who basically made this flow state, described this flow state in his book Flow. It's a deeply immersed state where you lose track of time in general. And this is one of the most enjoyable states humans can spend their time in. So web development is oftentimes play, as if you were playing whatever game that is your favorite, like a real-time strategy game or anything along those lines. You solve meaningful problems in practice. This way you train your mind, and this is something that can create lasting happiness and also fulfillment in your career because you do something meaningful. Another interesting feature of web development is that you can very easily see the feedback of what you're building, because you can see the end results on screen almost immediately. So you have relatively fast feedback loops, which means to you that it's easier for you to get into flow. Also, now in 2019, the frameworks, libraries, and tooling has matured, so it's a lot easier to do web development now with all these tools than back in 2010 or 2006 when I got started, because back then we just had a text editor and we had to know the different commands that we operated with inside out to make progress. Now it's a lot easier because there are a lot of tools that aid you. Also, you will see that the demand is continuously increasing and the supply is very much limited because, for example, in tech interviews, I do 5 to 10 tech interviews a week, by the way, and I can see that we reject 70 to 80% of all the applicants because the skill level is just not there. And if you learn web development properly in a matter of a few months, which is possible actually, and it's even likely that you will advance with some help or with some discipline, then you will have a very simple time to get into the top 20, top 30%, and from then on to get to the top 5%, it's not that hard. So, as I said, you can get job opportunities all around the world because remote work in 2019 is very much reality. You can go to a website called stackoverflow.com. I can highly recommend that site whenever you look for a question, a technical question, because you can find most of the answers there. And if you look for job opportunities, there is the remote job opportunity highlighted in there. In the United States, it's very popular. Elsewhere, it's also popular. And by the way, if you're looking to move out from the United States, it's also a possibility to get a visa very easily because many companies sponsor you to just go to any European country or some other countries in Asia or in other parts of the world just to do web development. And salaries are relatively good. So with visa sponsorship and everything, you have all the opportunities that you need to explore new places in the world. This might be something that's an extra perk for you. Also, freelancing opportunities. I have a freelancer friend who keeps on increasing his own competence, and for this reason he's working with the best employers all around the world. And you can also increase your hourly rate beyond what you can imagine right now. So I have seen quite a few freelance opportunities where the hourly rate went beyond $100 or euros or even Swiss francs. So it's a relatively high opportunity. I'm speaking from Germany, by the way, so I live in the European Union. Dollars or euros, it's there is like a 1.10 factor between them, so the euro is a bit stronger. At the same time, the salaries are high in both places. And the sky is the limit, because if you go to Silicon Valley, for instance, well, although there are high living costs, unless you have a structure to lower the living costs, the salaries, I mean, they are very high, like several $100,000. But that's already not even top 5%, but let's say top 2% skills. So getting into flow for a living, this is what I started with. So there is this professor called Mihály Csíkszentmihalyi, and he documented optimal experiences that also allow you to get into peak performance or deliver peak performance. And the necessary conditions for getting into this flow state is that the task that you do is not too easy, because if it's easy, you get bored. It's not too hard, because then you lose motivation. You get immediate feedback, which I said in case of web development, it's there, and you get rewards on a regular basis. What is a better reward than seeing that whatever you're learning, it just works, and it's pleasing to the eye, and then you get paid for playing as a software developer. I think this is very lucrative. Also, web development and software development in general has a very good, respectable status in the world. So if you're a web developer, you're a well-respected member of the society in general. This is a very positive perk. So mature tools and frameworks. Now we are working with some frameworks to structure our code. There is Angular, there is React. Very reputable companies are behind these frameworks. So Google is behind Angular, React is behind, Facebook is behind React. So we will learn React actually in a bootcamp that QuickStart provides. So there is some React training, and you will soon discover that the demand for React developers is very high, and the supply is very much limited, and therefore the salaries, and in case of the salary negotiation, everything is in your favor. So this is excellent. Also, there are some styling and component libraries like Bootstrap, and some other tools like GitHub, where you store your code. Actually, you can create your own GitHub repositories for free, and through these GitHub repositories, you can host a portfolio website for free. If you learn HTML and CSS, which is just the basics to create websites, which you will learn the first few weeks actually in the QuickStart Bootcamp, then what is going to happen is you have all the skills that you need, maybe with Bootstrap as well, to create your own portfolio site. And then during the rest of the bootcamp or the rest of your training, you will be able to add some elements to the portfolio, which are web applications. For example, you might have seen Twitter itself. You can code something similar as Twitter. It's very easy. Also some YouTube video catalog or a to-do list. These are very easy tasks that people can code within days. By the way, most of these hyped applications, so I would not say mobile applications, but also web, rather web applications, can be done within a few days maximum. So these are the skills that you're creating. You could even write a service, so you can even deliver a service that can be hosted on some servers, which is first free, and as the traffic is increased, in that case, with the scaling and with getting some income, you can spend some money on server hosting. This is also a possibility. Web development is really, really convenient as a career choice, both as an employee, as a self-employed person, or as an entrepreneur. So this is a great option in general. I promised some statistics on React. Before these statistics, let's see which language is the most popular. When it comes to being popular, you can measure it in multiple ways. So one option is to measure it based on what developers think about it, so the users, developer experience-wise. JavaScript is scoring really high on that. But this time I brought another statistic to give you some assurance that what you're going to learn is something that's very much important to the industry as well. JavaScript is the #1 language that is employers are looking for right now in these years, 2018, 2019. So you can see that there is also Java, and if you are not into software development in general, you might ask yourself, what is the difference between Java and JavaScript? Now, there is a famous saying that the difference between Java and JavaScript, it's like Java to JavaScript is like ham to hamster. So there is so much difference between the two that there is absolutely not much in common, except for the basic structure of how to branch off, if you write, if there is a condition, then do this, otherwise do something else. The syntax is very much similar in case of Java and JavaScript. But unfortunately, for Java developers, first of all, their language is losing popularity massively. You can check it out on trends.google.com. So this is the Google Trends website. How many people search for Java and how many people search for JavaScript. You can also check the job opportunities. It's declining. And at the same time, JavaScript is on the rise. So we're dealing with the language that is more popular out of the two. Also, it's a lot easier and a lot faster to write code. And by the way, in the bootcamp, there is also some education on Python, and possibly you could also deal with some PHP code. But Python is the third most important language in terms of what employers are looking for, and in many surveys, Python is ranking the first in terms of developer experience, which is also something very important. So these are the languages that were consciously selected for the bootcamp so that you get to learn marketable skills that are very much hot on the market, and also skills that are going to be useful for you regardless of whether you will look for employment or self-employed opportunities, or just getting into the gig economy. Hint, you can register some Fiverr tasks where the minimum could be sold for a couple of times $5. So that's what Fiverr is doing actually, but the big tasks can be upsold to, let's say, hundreds of dollars even. So there are many skills where JavaScript and Python can help you very easily to earn a significantly good income. Let's see the frameworks. So I promised the demand and supply analysis of React, the framework that, or actually React is just a library, but with some additional things. For those who know React, we need state management on top and some model parts. React and Redux is the skill, one of the skills that you might get away with very easily in terms of employment opportunities. But oftentimes, just by knowing React, the library, it's sufficient to write very good web applications. So this React code base is, or this React library is something where employers are looking for React skills at a huge, like very big rate, while the supply of qualified, competent software developers who are able to write React code is very much limited. So this is the biggest opportunity right now, where just compare React to ASP, which is on the right. You know, demand is very small and supply is almost as big as supply for React. We don't want to compete there. We want to compete where the demand is the highest and the supply is the lowest, right? So that you have a lot of opportunities. So this is one great choice. By the way, you will also learn Node.js so that you're going to be fluent on the server. And you don't have to worry that you're not learning AngularJS, or you might be able to actually if you wanted to branch off, so it's not a big deal to learn it. But the popularity of AngularJS with respect to React is declining. So that's something that actually, let me correct myself, because in case of ASP, it depends on what you use it for. So it's not the ASP.NET Core, because there is also a .NET Core element in the middle where demand and supply more or less match. It's still not an optimal skill to learn from this perspective, although .NET developers, good .NET developers are paid really well on the market, and they are really, really useful in many different companies. And actually .NET is very fast in general as well. So you cannot really go wrong with most of these technologies. Let's move on to lesson 2, because as you can see already on this chart, there are a lot of options. So we consciously made some choices for you so that you can get started with the right topics. But at the same time, if you got started with web development yourself, you would face some challenges. What to get started with, because there are so many things and there is so little time to learn it, and you cannot learn everything. You just need to get some hands-on practice, you need to build your portfolio, and for that you need to stick to certain frameworks, libraries, and some other tools and programming languages. So there are quite a lot of challenges with that, also with maintaining legacy, also with performance, security, user experience, and some other disciplines as well that are related to web development. Let's see these challenges one by one. So there's too many options, too little time. This is a big issue, actually, a major issue, because there are many different variations of JavaScript. So earlier there was even CoffeeScript, which might still be used at some places. And there is also TypeScript that brings some additional features to the JavaScript language that we will learn. There are many frameworks and libraries, like would you learn Angular, would you learn React, what would you learn? That's also a question. Does it make sense to learn jQuery in 2019? Well, that's debatable. Also Bootstrap. So there are many different options. And if you wanted to learn and master everything, you would need a lot of time. And these are just the basic choices, but after these basic choices, there are many others, like what libraries are you going to use for testing, and many other different questions. And in that, what I usually suggest is just stick to one option initially. Make sure that you find your niche, which consists of, let's say, a language, a framework, and some additional libraries and some additional skills. And then if you market yourself as a software developer who knows these specific skills and is able to develop a specific type of application, you will find your clients or employers more easily than if you try to go for everything and then you would not be proficient in anything. So this is very important as an approach. Also on server-side development, the difference between client-side and server-side development is the following. Client-side development is what the user sees eventually on the web or on a mobile device. Server-side development, it's all about storing data persistently in a database, accessing these data and processing it and preparing it for the client to render it. Rendering is the displaying of the data. And also there are some authentication, authorization challenges and some security challenges. This is server-side development. And client-side development is obviously about presenting data in the form of a website. So there is a server-side development aspect and a client-side development aspect. You have to decide whether you just do client-side or you specialize in full stack. Both are options, actually. So then you need to choose whether you use Visual Studio Code as an editor, an integrated development environment. This is a fancy word for text editor plus some additional features that are needed for web development. Or you can use WebStorm, which is a paid solution, or Sublime Text, which is also a paid solution for an unlimited free evaluation period. So it's free for an unlimited amount of time, but for a corporate environment you need to pay for it, or the completely free Atom. These are both very good environments. I recommend trying. You cannot go wrong with any of them, actually. So if you wanted to be proficient in one of them, choose one. And then there is like, what kind of database do we use, or what kind of web server do we use? So you configure your server with Nginx or Apache, both are options. So there are many choices. And you can get started with just making the choices yourself and educating yourself, or stick to some curated set of skills that others have chosen, because we know that there is a strong market demand for some of the technologies. So legacy solutions. Back in the days when I joined one of the companies that I worked with, there was a framework called Marionette.js, and there was a smaller library called Backbone.js. Now in 2019, if you wanted to look for Backbone.js developers, you would have a very hard time. I mean, it's not too hard to learn Backbone itself, but it went out of fashion. At the same time, you can still have some software out there where you need to maintain solutions written using the Backbone.js library. So this is absolutely possible. Let alone some companies where they write their own way of working, and let's say they have their own solutions, and you have no chance to learn these solutions because they are internal tools. So these skills are very important, and software developers face with these challenges sometimes, and you will need to learn how to solve meaningful problems in practice. So it is not the most important thing to, let's say, make sure that you learn and master the most important frameworks and libraries, but what we are really going for in a bootcamp and in any instruction actually is to teach you how to think. Because if you know how to think and how to solve problems in practice, then you will be able to adapt to any environments. This is very much like there was the United States IndyCar Grand Prix not too long ago, and imagine what happened to the whole crew if there was rain, on the racetrack. They had a hard time keeping their cars on track even during dry conditions, right? So I have seen quite a lot of Formula One races, on the other hand, where the drivers had to adapt for rainy conditions. And it's very much the same. It's imagine if you had to maintain an internal solution, an internally crafted solution that you have no grasp of, as if it was a racing car on a full wet track with a thunderstorm, and you have to drive even then. So we'll teach you how to drive no matter what the conditions are going to be. So yeah, what can a web developer do? So there are going to be some words or phrases in here that if you are not a software developer, you have not heard of software development in general, then they might be a bit new for you. For example, what is a mockup? A mockup, it's like a static this static image, or actually not just an image, but a layered image on some level with some additional instructions on how a website should be structured or how a web page should be structured. And this plan, as if it was a plan of a building, can be translated into a website. And this website is going to be something that you can create with your own skills. This is one type of task. The hourly rate for this type of task is not the highest. At the same time, you can get started with it in just a few weeks of learning. And the hourly rate that you're getting for this is already higher than the regular jobs. Like, let's say if you went to McDonald's to flip burgers, it would definitely be lower than, let's say, this turning a mockup into functioning HTML and CSS code and possibly some JavaScript for animations. And once again, this is just a few weeks of learning. Then there is the other aspect of developing WordPress sites. WordPress is the #1 technology behind all blogs. Actually, not all, but many blogs. So it's like most blogs. So whenever you see a blog, chances are that it's a WordPress site. Not always, because there are some other content management systems. That's another alien word. But WordPress is also a very good skill to have, because WordPress developers also earn a significant amount of money. The top freelancers earn quite a lot actually in there. I know a few freelancers with cutting-edge WordPress skills. They are earning really good money. Then there is client-side, server-side, and database development. Another buzzword is DevOps. DevOps, they are dealing with things like configuring servers so that they are up and running. Penetration testing or pen testing, it's a funny name. It's about making sure that a system, for example, a website client-server solution, cannot be hacked or attacked in a way that you take down the service altogether or you leak some data. You know, we are in the era of protecting our own data a lot more than ever before. Especially, you might not know about these European Union regulations, this GDPR thing, which is basically all about regulating data. From your perspective, all you need to understand that the bigger the companies, the more they need to comply with these laws, because the penalties are severe. So it's very much like something that you cannot avoid beyond a certain company size, unless you don't provide any services in Europe, which is also a possibility, but then you can block all the traffic towards Europe. That's also a DevOps task, actually. Then there is this continuous integration, continuous deployment, and so on. These are also things that, imagine that you're making some changes in the code of a website or an application, and then you press a button, and this button press makes sure that some processes in the background transfer the changes that you made to functioning code on the server that the users can see right away. These are things that also DevOps people need to maintain. Then you can also become an entrepreneur, as I told you a bit before. Also, it is very easy to transform your skill set from a developer to a leader. There is just one secret to this transition. It's called taking responsibility, because responsibility and common sense is not too common at the workplace. Whenever you hear that someone says, this is not my job, it's not on me, this is someone else needs to do it, I'm just here to develop software, this is when you see that this person is not going to be a leader anytime soon. But if you take responsibility, oftentimes you're promoted to a leader, a manager, or whatever they call it. Actually, leading and managing are two different things, because the first is more with people, and you have some communication skills to lead. And management is oftentimes all about execution and administration and making sure that everything runs smoothly. But these skills are very much on demand, and a lot of small and mid-sized companies, the owners of these companies are complaining at a massive scale that they have a very hard time finding responsible people. And so this is your opportunity. It's not hard to take responsibility. It's always the easiest way. Then there is architecture as a challenge. In architecture as well, there is opportunity. Think about a house, like a real estate. On a real estate, there are some obviously houses or apartments or buildings in general. And before people build the buildings, there is a plan. That's what the architecture does. We also need plans for software. This is a software engineering task. You will not be able to function as an architect after a bootcamp, let me admit that. But at the same time, after years of experience, you will see enough, if you educate yourself, to function as an architect. I saw an architecture position, full-time employment position, so not freelancing position, 160 to 200,000 Swiss francs per year. And in Switzerland, the taxes are ultra low, so I mean like 10 to 20%. I know in the United States it's complex because you will have some tax obligations besides the tax that you pay. But at the same time, just imagine in a low-tax country, 200,000 Swiss francs, which are almost like $200,000. It's not bad, actually. And then last thing, user experience. That's also important because the user always finds out how to simplify their own task, and we need to accommodate it as much as possible. So there are quite a lot of things. You will not get bored most likely, right? So this is a very good opportunity. Now let's detail some of these challenges, problems. Performance and security is something that we often need to pay attention to, because in web applications, oftentimes we just write code for years. Well, not years, it's very rare, but rather for months. And a lot of code without considering performance will mean that you try to click, and then as you click, nothing happens for 2-3 seconds. Most often the times you just lose a couple of users already. There is a problem with that, so it's very important to make sure that we take care of performance issues and optimize. This is something that requires some experience and some side projects that you do yourself. But at the same time, computers are faster than ever, so we need to consider performance issues on a different scale now, and the performance challenges are oftentimes on the server side now. So that's one thing. The other thing is security, where if you deal with server-side development especially, then you have a lot of issues to protect the data that leaves the servers, because you don't want to leak any data due to some considerations that your company or your client may be penalized. Yeah, so that was lesson 2. A lot of challenges, a lot of options, a lot of opportunities. Let's move on and see how we can get started with learning web development. As I said before, focus on what matters. And what matters is that you learn how to solve problems in practice and how to think about solutions. And obviously it also matters that you're fluent in some technologies, but that's second priority, because if you have the mindset and you have the problem-solving skills, then you will be able to learn and pick up the rest fast. This is one thing about college and university actually, that they claim that if you stay with a good university or college for 4 to 6 years, or however much, I don't know how many years you need for a degree. Back in the days for me it was 5. Now for an MSc. Now the situation is that indeed they are correct that you learn a lot of useful stuff. At the same time, the problem is that you need 5 years for that. And you will learn a lot of skills and also a lot of knowledge that is not going to be useful for you at all. I mean, these are things that you will completely discard. I learned 2 semesters of physics, for instance, and I was lucky because many other people before me, so in earlier semesters, they learned 3 semesters of physics, not 2. And to this day, I'm still yet to find the very first project where I need my physics or even the high-level, university-level mathematics skills. I mean, I deal with probabilities and some other stuff, but I never deal with physics, for instance. This is why if you go to a bootcamp, this is an option, an alternative. And yes, I admit there are some corporations where a university degree is an advantage. But think about it. Would it make sense to learn a university-level software engineering in general or web development on top of already knowing how to make money with web development? Or first you just learn and then you will see whether you can make money with it one day. So I really admire and appreciate university level education. So no doubt about it, there is a utility for a university level BSc or MSc degree. It already has a value, especially in big corporations. At the same time, it's not optimal that some people need to get into debt for this type of education. So I would rather teach the younger audience how to make money and then follow up with the university studies. Just like many people many well-known professionals who were set to have left the university they actually didn't leave the university altogether to launch whichever startup company that they launched, but they just canceled their next semester. They postponed it for a few semesters. They launched their startup and then they finished their degrees. So it's an urban legend that you need to drop out of college to make a good living. This is not necessarily something this is not reality. It's not the reason why some people made it is not because they dropped out of college. It's because of something else. And by the way, they may or may not have finished college afterwards, but the journalists don't write about these things actually. So this is something really important, that there is a space for both type of services. And in a bootcamp, you're guaranteed that sooner or later, or rather sooner than later, you have the option to learn marketable skills with which you can make good money in general. I can testify that based on people that I hire actually. I don't really mind what kind of degrees they have. So this is how a bootcamp can help you really a lot. And also you will be able to build your own portfolio, which is very important as well. That there is this thing called a personal brand, and this is everything that people can find about you. Your portfolio matters a lot. We will build that in the first couple of months of your bootcamp stay, in case you choose to enroll. Now, focusing on what matters, once again, if you get started with learning, there are a lot of opportunities. What really matters is that you learn the right technologies and the problem-solving skills, obviously, so you're not wasting your time with learning every little thing. And you're a creator and not a consumer. A consumer just consumes information. It's learning. Learning is, it's a misconception. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So you need to apply what you learn by creating some useful applications, some portfolio elements, and then you can demonstrate that you know what you're doing, because people can go to your portfolio and then they can hire you if they like what they see. This is what matters. Also, you can contribute to open source repositories. Open source, it's like the source code. So basically the way how software is constructed is open to the public and you can contribute to them. And imagine that there is the source code of React, for instance. You can submit some modifications to the React code base. Hint, if you are getting started, some of the first modifications that I would recommend is changes to documentation, because most people can write in English, right? So then you can get started with your contribution, and then you would become a respected member of the open source community. This is also an option to get started without any degree or any background, actually. So let's see what you can get from QuickStart. So we will get down the basic programming concepts first, because as you know, you need to think and you need to solve problems in practice. It's important. So if the foundations are solid, you'll be able to learn anything. After learning Git and GitHub, that's the second point, you will be able to host your portfolio site for free. And you will also be able to store software privately even. Store and maintain software online for free in private or public repositories. By the way, I recommend, unless you have a business secret, I recommend public repositories so that others can see what you're doing. But if you have trouble in that case, private is also an option. And then there is going to be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, responsible design, Bootstrap, WordPress, React, and so on. So these skills are also going to be important. And some server-side technologies like Python, Node.js, Express.js, then you will learn some things about databases and Heroku. All right, so let me go to the next slide. Let's see your learning experience in general. So online modules, weekly office hours are important because, first of all, it's important that whenever you need to learn whenever you have time for it. So that's why online modules, you can finish them at your own time. But while you're learning and you're practicing, so you put things into practice, there are going to be weekly office hours where you can ask your questions. It's important because if you get stuck and you don't know, for instance, how to look for a certain answer or what kind of question to look for, because if you don't know the question, you won't see the answer, then the weekly office hours will help you a lot. Then there are mini projects that you can execute and put it, or basically complete and put it in your portfolio. Some discussion forum, because you know, there is this effect called the peer group effect. So your peer group determines your success in general, because if your peer group is strong, you will also you will also advance faster. This is why mentors help you a lot in terms of advancing faster. They save you a lot of time. I mean, really a lot of time. I have multiple mentors even today, not only in the area of web development, but in many other areas. And then you will build a market-ready portfolio, which will allow you to market your services. Let it be employment. So together your resume, you'll be able to submit your portfolio as well, and people will evaluate it, your potential employers. Or as a self-employed person, it is even more important to have a portfolio. So anything that contributes to your personal brand is important. So how will we help you succeed? Academic counselor for onboarding, that's something that you can expect. You will have continuous access to mentors on a regular basis throughout your studies. There are guest speaker sessions where you will learn some things, cutting edge new topics that are circulating in the industry. Some career counseling, because it's not enough to know the technical skills. It's also important to get to know what kind of career opportunities are worth pursuing, how to negotiate your salary. Obviously, hint, it makes sense to negotiate because HR expects you to negotiate in general. It's kind of a common sense, but technical people have a hard time negotiating because we talk to a computer all day, right? At least in case of programming. So in order to avoid getting a disadvantage, you can do two things. One is that you increase your competence so that money will follow responsibility and competence. And the other one is that you negotiate properly. These are things that are also important in general. Obviously, building your portfolio and gathering experience in terms of either internship or regular work, it's also a possibility that you will get access to. So I've talked quite a lot about market-ready portfolios in general, so there is not much left for me to explain in here. So most people who get started with software development, let it be web development or let it be anything else, it's very interesting that there is this chicken and egg problem where in order to get a job, you need experience. But in order to get experience, you need to get a job, right? And the way out of that is that you give yourself your first job by creating some portfolio applications. And then with the quality that you deliver, you can convince your future employers or clients. This is what we're gonna do in these 4 months. Until it is evident that people can buy your services and they can expect quality from you, obviously you will give yourself some tasks in terms of contributing to your own portfolio or contributing to open source projects, which is also a possibility. So that's it for lesson 3. The last one, the secret of how you can get to the top 5% of all software developers. What kind of soft skills you need to get promoted fast? I guess it's worth knowing about it. This is a very fast section because it's more or less obvious. It's just hard to execute it. So it will require hours and hours of not necessarily lectures, but practice. possibly even in front of the mirror. That's also a possibility. So how you can turn tech business plans into reality? It's possible to make 5 or to 6 figures a month, even 7 figures a month is a bit too much because there you have some business scaling, but rather 5 figures a month, it's already a relatively big salary. And I know quite a lot of entrepreneurs who built businesses. Actually, they are not entrepreneurs in a strict sense because they are not taking responsibility in terms of employing a lot of people, and they just work with freelancers. But creating a 5-figure business, let it be info marketing, let it be products, let it be a service, it is possible. It's not that hard. And those people don't even know some tech skills that you will know after 4 months. So just imagine. You have the power to implement any web application almost. After in just a matter of a couple of months, you will know how to research what you didn't learn from the courses, and you can start building your own tech solutions. This is very important. And the bar is by far not as high as you would think. So I'm relatively famous for rejecting 95% of all applications. First interview, I reject 70% approximately, maybe a bit more. Second interview, it's a bit easier, but there is also a homework assignment in between for us. And I reject quite a lot of people, not because I'm extremely strict, but because I want to build teams that function really well. And I owe my team the quality standards that we stick to, because if I dilute the team that I have, for instance, with lower quality standards, then there is a problem. And you will have all the tools you need to get to this top 5% with soft skills. There is this snowflake syndrome. What is the snowflake syndrome? It's all about assuming responsibility for our own emotions. Emotional control is very rare in the 21st century, actually. And if you search for some parodies about how to get offended, it's very easy, actually. Assume no responsibility for your own actions and emotions and blame others. This is happening on a regular basis at many workplaces, based on the stories of some of my clients that I'm not going to share here. But the situation is that to get ahead, all you need to do is just a solid common sense approach to software development and a professional environment and behavior. You are not entitled in general for getting any perks from the company. You need to earn and deserve it, because the company is paying for your services in general. And there are many elements of entitlement, arrogance, also narcissistic personality disorder, that's another big one, lack of ability to listen, lack of competence. It's all around software developers in general. I'm not saying that most software developers are like that. That's not the case by far. At the same time, in many companies, these elements appear. And all you need to do is just imagine, if you want to make a good living with an excellent career, you just need to stick to certain standards in terms of behavior. It's not that hard at all. Then my take on soft skills. This is the book that I'm going to retire actually quite soon because a publisher bought the rights. There I have a few soft skills that I very much advocate, that if you take these soft skills as the #1 most important, or top 4 most important things in your career, then you will get ahead. So personal integrity, it's like how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you stick to high standards, others will notice it. There is no doubt about that. I would promote people with very good integrity more likely than some people who lack integrity. Taking responsibility, I already disclosed that this is not my job. It's not optimal in general. So rather think about how you can add value and money will follow the value. Because imagine that if you generate this amount of value, then the company, if the company shares just this amount with you, so just a smaller amount, then you're already better off with what you get from the workplace. Professionalism, it includes some of the other factors actually, but it's a bit more complex. So others can rely on you and you can take responsibility, they are connected. And also the communication skills, that you're reliable and others can expect on what you deliver and how. And by the way, all these, so if you develop these 4 skills, you also develop your emotional intelligence, which correlates with your earning ability based on some Forbes articles and based on some studies by the authors of the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. There is a very high correlation between high level of emotional intelligence and your earning ability. The other important part is personal branding. That's why we start with a portfolio. That's why we need proper resumes, proper standards, and also the soft skills as well, so that you will know what to do in what situations. A strong personal brand is very important. So let's summarize what happened in this course. So you learned that it pays off pursuing a web development career because it's very hot on the market. You will face interesting challenges, and when it comes to training versus learning, always choose training, always create, not just consume the materials. So you will get a chance for that in any basically solutions or bootcamp as well. And well, your portfolio is going to be your #1 asset for your personal brand. And the road to the top 5 is just to behave how a professional software developer is expected to behave. Imagine if you want some services, the most professional companies or service providers deliver you great services, right? If you stick to these standards, it's very easy to get ahead in your career. So that's it. Now, let me introduce a bootcamp program. So this is a web development bootcamp program that you have a chance to join. And I would like to highlight the Project 1, Project 2, Project 3, Project 4, and Capstone project. So these are the training opportunities when you can create some elements for your own portfolio. This is important. You will learn front-end development, Python, you will implement technical solutions, and obviously HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's module 1 already. In module 2, there is advanced CSS, Python, Bootstrap, and jQuery. And then we'll move on to both Angular and React, web development, and even Redux. So you will have a full-fledged framework with React and Redux. And then we will go to server-side development in module 4 as well with MySQL, Python, Django, and even some data analysis and visualization options. They are very cool actually in terms of how these bootcamp elements are structured. I saw the lectures, they're amazing. Also an advanced React router and Redux, that's more on the client side. And finally, module 5, Node.js functional prototypes. This is a multi-month opportunity for you to train these skills. You will also get access to mentors. This is excellent in that aspect. You will recognize these logos, so you will learn these skills. These are the top important technologies that you work with. HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript are, for instance, things that in themselves you can use them to market yourself really easily. Like Python, there's the Git, like React, WordPress, Django, and so on. So this is a full. If you learn just half of these technologies, you can make a six-figure salary with some experience. So not right away. Actually, some people can earn it right away as well if you know how to market yourself and how to sell your services as a freelancer. But in the long run, there is a path towards this six-figure living. So how will we help you succeed? Weekly classes. So up to 30 hours, you can come to a class, And you can prepare for a new job without having to quit your current job. So you can do this on the side. Timing is flexible, it's tailored to your own needs, and you can access career coaching to find a job within 6 months. And if you don't find it, there is a money-back guarantee as well that you can reach for, so you can reach. So this is something that guarantees that you have nothing to lose, actually. You can just gain a new job, basically, that's more lucrative, or some new opportunities. Weekly one-on-one sessions with expert mentors. So you can have access to people who have been in the industry for years, and most likely they have seen most of your problems. If you ask any questions, you will see you will see some solutions that they can or actually we can answer right away. Hands-on project experience help you build your own portfolio and show this. You can show this to your future employers. Portfolio building, personal brand building, this is super important in the 21st century. Everyone has a personal brand, whoever is in the job market. There are some stronger personal brands as well that might interrupt your YouTube videos, for instance. I'm not talking about some Lamborghini and some other stuff, but still, you know, that's also personal branding, actually, even if it's irritating. Then there is a certificate opportunity. So you will get a certification, so certificate of achievement from the Texas A&M University, Kingsville. So you see the synergy between universities and boot camps, right? So it's very important that they are not competing. That's a synergy on some level, because it's everyone's interest that you will learn some skills with which you can make money. And if you finish your studies afterwards and get in-depth knowledge, it's easier for you if you have some skills already. Then you can get access to self-pay scholarships, crowdfunding, financing, and grant and deferred tuition. These are different financing options. You can get in touch with some representatives to discuss the pros and cons. All right, starting dates. So we'll get started on April 8th, May 20th, and the duration is 4 months. These are the payment options. Obviously, if there is an upfront payment, you can consider how to optimize the fees, because number one is obviously more lucrative. There is a month-to-month option where you can make sure that you minimize the monthly payments. Even a deferred option is available to you. All you need to do is fill in a form, and the course advisors will contact you and complete your enrollment. Everything is straightforward. You can see the link on screen as well. Just click on it and apply. And already from $500 per month for 18 months, that's the lowest amount of monthly payment, to just an upfront $6,900 one-time payment. These options and the multi-month course, so it's like a 4-month duration course, plus the career counseling, plus everything else. Just imagine that for this investment, how much more you can earn every single year in your career than what you can earn right now. So this is basically a no-brainer in case you need these skills and you can imagine yourself as a web developer. Thank you very much and take care.